Do you know who August Ringers was? Or perhaps you know Karel Kogge. Last year, I wouldn't have known one of them. Now I do. One Sunday in January, my father took me to the Westhoek, the area known as a World War I battlefield. And we stopped at the sluice gates of Newport, where Karel Kogge, in those days, was a lockkeeper. One night in October 1914, he did something that would make him legendary. He opened the sluices of the Yser. Tons of seawater flooded into the Yser area. As a result, the canals in the valley spilled their water into the fields. Karel had caused an inundation, a natural defense against the advancing Germans, which meant a great support for the Allied troops. What does he teach us? August Ringers was one of those Belgian soldiers. He was 19, barely 2 years older than I am now, and all ready for a great adventure. Today we cannot imagine how tough August's life was, paddling in the trenches. We cannot imagine how it feels sleeping in the rain. Imagine not sleeping at all, cursing the lice in your hair and the rats at your feet. Imagine constantly lying awake because of a constant fear. The fear for a sudden assault of the enemy, destroying everything you have, your trench, your friends, and finally, your existence. The fear to breathe. Imagine the fear to inhale chemical gases during your sleep, gases that burn your skin and your lungs. The fear of the terrible memories of the past day, and of course, the fear of the day to come, the fear of every tomorrow. August was a tough boy, but no superhero. In the Battle of Passchendaele in 1917, some 600,000 men died, and among them, at least one Flemish boy. What does he teach us? Don't waste your time next Sunday. Visit August in Wipers. Today, Ishtar is a Syrian woman of 40. Her apartment in Aleppo was struck by a rocket. Half a year later, one of her family members loses his life in the chemical attack in Ghouta together with some 1,500 others. What does she teach us? The cruelty of war is unpredictable. So is life. In that respect, Forrest Gump, who also fought in the war, was right. Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. When Forrest found himself on the fronts of the Vietnam War, he probably cursed his box and the bitter chocolate that had led him there. In a short span of time, I have confronted you with August in Wipers, 100 years later with Ishtar in Aleppo, and between them briefly with Forrest in Vietnam. What have they taught us? Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, Turkey, Ukraine, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Egypt, South Sudan, Somalia, Uganda, Mali, Nigeria, Mexico, Colombia. What has changed? We've learned quite a lot from our history, I think. But despite all the lessons of the Bible or of the Quran, despite all the advice of our teachers and parents, not that much about solving a conflict. But if nothing has changed today, what will change tomorrow? What does our future look like? Should we just eat our chocolates? Our future, option A. There will always be war. There will always be parties that benefit from war and that don't consider peace more important than their own wealth. Think of Russia selling weapons to Syria. Our future, option B. Who of us has ever known war? My grandmother has. She's 92, but neither her sons nor her grandsons have. For more than 2 generations, our European Union has been a protector of this peace, making us talk and listen. Lives like a box of chocolates indeed. Never in history people could peer into the box, and we never will. But if our generation has learned anything from history, it is that democracy and communication are the basic ingredients of peace. You can be Karel, taking your responsibility. You can be August, picking up your gun. But without the flavor of words, life will always be a bitter chocolate. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your speech, Elias. Do you think there is a way for us to avoid the bitter chocolate, or are we forced to taste and endure them?
Like I said in my speech, we cannot peer into the box, so we cannot avoid certain chocolates. But I think that we can, by communicating and by diplomacy, for example, in a global way, maybe in some way change the content of the box and put some more crunchy ones in it, with nuts, for example.
All right, so to go on with the chocolate metaphor, who do you think decides what kind of chocolates we all eat?
What kind of chocolates we eat?
No, who decides what kind of chocolates we will all eat?
Well, I would say we decided ourselves. But I wouldn't say that we choose that individually. We can change this content of the box by working together, by communicating, by respecting each other and by being tolerant. Because I think that is what the wealth of our world is, what it's actually about, the diversity of us. So I think we have to change it ourselves. Thank you.
Elias, thinking of Ieper or wipers, as the British say, what is to you the value of a symbol like the last post being played every single night there? Is this important to young people like you?
I think the commemoration is very important. And I think it's amazing that last post is done every day, every night, at the same time, and that people can just go there and look at it, because it makes people conscious of the importance and of it and how serious it actually is, and really especially young people, because there aren't a lot of people, young people aren't interested in war. There's this quote from Trotsky that says, you may not be interested in war, but war is interested in you. So, and I think that young people should keep that in mind, that it can come closer to us than Iraq, for example.
I'm from Wipers myself, and I know that a lot of people, the last post is an important symbol, as you say, but a lot of people consider it a nuisance as well, because it clogs up traffic and it makes a lot of noise, etc. So doesn't this show us that people don't really care about history anymore? So how can we learn from history then?
What doesn't show us? What doesn't learn us?
It shows us that people don't really care for history anymore if it gets in the way of their daily life. So can we still really learn from history then, if people don't care anymore about it?
I don't think so. We should keep on caring about our history. Actually, it's all we have. It's our history, and if we want to have a future, we have to listen to our history. Study the past if you want to define the future. Okay. That's a quote from Mao, not mine. Not my quote, sorry.
Yes, I have another question. Eyewitnesses of the First World War are becoming scarce. Do you think this changes our way of looking at the First World War, of seeing it in a historic...
Sorry, I really can't understand you.
The eyewitnesses of the First World War,
yes,
they're becoming scarce. They're all getting old and they're dying.
Yeah.
Do you think this changes the way we as a society now and in the future will look back on the First World War?
So you say that the fact that they are dying actually would change our view on history?
Well, that's what I'm asking, because it's no longer a personal anecdote from your grandparents, for example,
Yeah.
but it becomes actual history
Well,
in the books.
yeah, I
Does that
think-
make a difference?
I think it is important that we keep history alive, and indeed people who eyewitnessed those events are the best way of doing it. I visited Robben Island a few years ago, and we were guided by a former prisoner. So that's a very, very nice way to keep history alive. But of course, those people we are losing them. So we just should keep in mind that things have happened, and we should study our history books, really. I think. Thank you.